Possum Patty from Pennsylvania here with an art journal flip. This is number 5 in my Strathmore 500 series mixed media journal. I journaled in this book from around June 2015 to January 2016. On the first page is a selfie. I was working on Everyday in June prompts. I listed the prompts here on the cover of the page. I didn't do all of them, but I did a few of them. And the first one was a selfie. And this is from a picture of me at Universal Studios at the Hogwarts ride holding a magic wand. Every day in June, prompt number 2 was shell game. So I did a picture of a shell with watercolors and some ink, and then I copied a photo, an old photo of my mom from 1945 that was taken at Coney Island Beach, and I collaged that on, and then I took a Posca pen and put some highlights on the old photo. I got a quote from my mom saying, "We used to take the subway when they were going to Coney Island." She said she remembered once when her father, she called him Pop, made fried chicken, and somehow when they got to the beach and they opened up the bag, it was a bag of garbage. On the way out the door, she must have had a bag of garbage in one hand and a bag of fried chicken in the other hand, and she threw out the good fried chicken and took the garbage to the beach. I did this page in the airport, waiting for a flight to go to Orlando. This is when we were going to go to Universal Studios. This is my husband's suitcase sitting on top of mine. He travels very lightly with his old Camel cigarette. He doesn't smoke, but he likes the travel bag that they had. While at Universal Studios, we went to see the Blue Man Group, and I was so excited. We had front row seats, and I sat there with my plastic poncho on, with my journal open, waiting to get a splash of paint from them during their act, and I did not get one drop of color on the book. So when I got back to the hotel, I splashed the page with color, and I had written down a quote that I liked from their performance. "If you would like to establish a connection with people from another culture, it's always good to offer a few gifts as a gesture of friendship. But an even better way to forge a lasting bond is by creating something together, whether it's a meal, an art project, or just a spontaneous dance party. When you create with others, you build a connection that lasts a lifetime." From The Social Synapse by norepinephrine and serotonin. I did a sketch of one of the members of the Blue Man Group. And another quote from the performance that says the paper used in the performance was recycled. I cut up one of the maps of the park and collaged it onto a page, and then I drew little footprints showing how we went from one ride to another at Universal. While waiting in line to go on the Minion Mayhem ride, I sketched a picture of one of the Minions, and I texted it to my sister, and she texted me back, "You're one in a Minion," she said. A little collage of the map from the hotel we were staying at Universal Cabana Bay. It had a very 1950s modern look with the colors, the art on the wall. The tables had that 1950s Formica look. Some more stars in the background. This was at the Atomic Tonic bar, Starlight Bar. They had a rocket with a little monkey in the window. This was a prompt from a sketchbook school course. It was draw and eat and draw. I used watercolors and micron pens. Started with an apple, quick sketch, and then as I took a few bites, I sketched it again and again. And when I got down to the core, I stop and I take it out to the horse pasture and give it to my horse Corey. I tried a little quick sketch of some egg cups, some antique egg cups that I have, and I did this on toned paper with gouache. It was a little hard to put the gouache on the toned paper because the paper was coming apart a little bit. I guess you can use a little bit of wet media, but not a lot on the kind of paper this was. This again is the Sketchbook School prompt. This was cause and effect. Overcome the brain's need to label and categorize. And we did something that was very complicated to draw. We did a crumpled dollar bill. I did this with just ink and wash. This was another eat and draw, but I cheated on this because you can't eat and draw and eat. You just, with a blueberry, take one bite and then it's gone. Another Sketchbook School assignment, and this was collaboration. And you get a friend to sit with you and you sketch one half of the scene before you and she sketches the other. Then you switch sides and you paint her side and she paints your side. And I did this with my friend Sheila. Another Sketchbook School assignment. We did some watercolors and put Prismacolor pencils on top of that. Did a piece of watermelon. This was an everyday in June prompt, music. I was so excited because I was learning to use the keyboard, so I sketched my hand and some of the keyboard keys. And I did it over a collage background from an old music book, and the name of the song was Dummy Song. It says, sometimes I feel like the title of this song when I'm trying to play. Another everyday in June, the garden. I sketched one of the poppies from my garden. I used some fluid, very bright orange fluid acrylic paint. Trying really hard to paint pictures of people or sketch pictures of people. I did this at the Yoakum Art Institute portrait workshop. This is graphite on Bristol vellum, and this is watercolors on Yupo paper, that plastic Yupo paper. This is from Danny Gregory's book, The Art Before Breakfast. You had to draw with a big pen and make big sweeping lines and then take a finer pen and fill in some of the details. I did a lot of journaling on this page about a story of when I took art in high school and we had to keep a sketchbook and I sketched my foot, and when the teacher gave it back to me there was a big fat red circle around my toe because I have a funky little toe that goes sideways, and the teacher made a note that I should have drawn it straight up. He corrected my little sideways toe, and it really depressed me that I did a really good job drawing what I saw. Good observation, and the teacher didn't see it that way. Another everyday in June with the poppies again with the fluid orange acrylic. I did this outside, got kind of messy, but that was fun. Little white Posca pen on top. An everyday in June prompt. The prompt was clean sweep, and that's what the horse American Pharoah did that year by winning the Triple Crown. There was a story about him, somebody cut his tail, and so he had this little wispy broom tail, and everybody used to say, all hail the tail. American Pharoah wins the Triple Crown. Clean sweep, little washi tape in there, watercolors. Playing with some crayons. True to life crayons, tricolor tips bring scenes to life. And it has this many colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 colors, and each color is a combination of different colors. And I took some craft paper out to the pond to try out the crayons, but I don't think they show the real brightness of the colors on this dark paper. I took my electric car to a car show. This is a quick sketch of the back of my car. It's a Nissan Leaf, did with some watercolors and some collage from the flyer that I had in the window to enter the car show. I had brought one of the poppies into the house and the leaves fell off, but I really enjoyed looking at the seed head, the crazy seed head on this poppy. At the car show again, I sketched the back fender and bumper of the car next to me, and this woman, it's a beautiful red Chevy, she actually won Best in Show. Show of Wheels, the 10th Annual Fleetwood Rotary Club Car Show. While I was sitting, waiting for judging, I drew a big tree that was in the middle of the field and a gentleman who was looking at some more cars. I was waiting for appointment at Angelica Creek Park, and I sketched the wetlands with the cattails and some trees and a birdhouse in the background. Here I did a study of the seed heads of the poppy plants that are in my garden. And I used a lot of different techniques on this page. There's some collage around the edge. These leaves, I actually used real poppy plant leaves as a mask, and I painted around them. What else did I use? Let's see. It says I did a jelly monoprint. I used the poppy leaves as masks. I had collage elements. I put acrylic, I put gouache, pit, brush pens, blood, sweat, and tears. A lot went into that page. Here's some quick gesture drawing at the Yoakum Art Institute. It was Life Drawing Day. Those were 2-minute sketches and more 2-minute sketches. Then I filled it in quickly with some gouache afterwards. This was a longer pose, and I turned that life drawing into an art journal page with a lot of collage, different techniques here. This is a stencil with some molding paste, so there's a lot of texture on there. I think there's some wrappers from some chopsticks here, a flyer from a fashion show, a benefit fashion show my sister gave called A Touch of Asia. And I think some of these elements were from a Chinese restaurant. Urban sketching at the Kutztown Folk Festival. I sat on a bale of straw and sketched the people, the characters, as they went by me very quickly. Slim Jim with a big hat, walking the dog lady with a long dog. Across from me was a potter working on his pottery. Dad with a feather in his cap and 2 in a red wagon. A big black beard man. Long hair lady with a flower in her hair. Tuba man in the band. Blue shopping cart lady. And then dancing to the sound of the sauerkraut band girl. Some characters sketching as I was at the Kutztown Folk Festival. Also while at the festival, I did a lesson from sketchbook school where you had to focus on the most interesting part. So I focused on the blacksmith's fire. He had some iron pots hanging in the fire. And then in the background, very faintly, there's a Conestoga wagon that was parked behind the blacksmith's exhibit at the fair. Still trying to paint people. This is a quick sketch of my mother. She was sitting out by my frog pond. Sketching at the powwow. Some dancers from the powwow. The hobby horse powwow. This is a quote from the powwow. True path walkers bring back natural harmony, find and use real truth, promote balance between men and women, share, are less materialistic, are rid of prejudice, and learn to be related. They are kind to animals and take no more than they need. Play with their children, love each other equally, and are brave and courageous. They take a stand and make a commitment. They understand what generations unborn really means. They accept the great mystery in order to end the foolish argument over religion. It's a fancy shawl dancer. When I got back home, I added the background, a couple stamps, some color around the edge of the page. This is an elephant with lots of inks and jelly printing in the background, acrylic, and some molding paste or something to thicken up the acrylic because there's a lot of texture on this elephant. Of course, elephants really do have quite wrinkly skin with lots of texture. Another portrait of my mother sitting at the frog pond. This one is in gouache. Quick sketch of a tiger lily that was growing out by the pond. Another quick sketch of some black-eyed Susans from my garden. Some fall leaves. I traced the leaves and then I put down some watercolor, and on top I used a black ink pen to zentangle some designs. And I journaled a green, gentle summer followed by a long, warm, colorful autumn. November 2015. Winter weeds and wildflowers. This page was gesso with watercolor on top, taking a wipe and muting the colors, and then taking some very fine micron pens, sketching in a variety of different seed heads and wild grasses, how they look in the wintertime. I made an index over here of what they all are, and I took a quote from Thoreau. When the ground was partially bare of snow and a few warm days had dried its surface, it was pleasant to compare the first tender signs of the infant year just peeping forth with the stately beauty of the withered vegetation which had withstood the winter, life everlasting goldenrods, pinweeds, and graceful wild grasses, more obvious and interesting frequently than in summer even, as if their beauty was not ripe till then. Even cotton grass, cattails, mulleins, johnswort, hardback, meadowsweet, and other strong stem plants, those unexhausted granaries which entertain the earliest birds, decent weeds at least, which widowed nature wears. So Thoreau was very interested in the shape and form of these plants after they've survived the whole winter. Went to a workshop on miniature plants of the forest by Susan Munch, and a quick sketch of some lichen and some different mosses. A little journaling about a gray day and a rose pink sunset. 2 weeks to Christmas and the roses were still blooming. That was a very warm December. A little bit more journaling in the morning and another rose practice. This is from an old photograph of my grandmother at the beach with one of her friends, and I put in the lyrics to a song, This Is My Fight Song, and I made up a caption, hand over the sunblock or else. Of course, they were just fooling around, but this is actually what they look like in the photo. A friend lent me a book, The Artistic Anatomy of Trees by Rex Cole. This picture was taken from that book. The young student, not knowing how a tree is constructed, is unable to express its essential forms. He loses their vitality and makes his tree look nondescript and lifeless. And say instead that only those who can feel the beauty of trees may attempt to paint them, and that to others their significance must forever remain a closed door. This is my stepson's cat, Joey, at Christmas, sitting on a present with a very intense stare. He is wearing his jingle belt collar. Is this my present? Where's my present? That's what he seemed to say that day. Some more tree practice. I took an old picture of some trees I did. This is winter solstice sunset with the shadow of the trees in the foreground. I tried to make the trees a little bit more realistic with the same kind of background. I was a little heavy-handed with the black ink on this, and I tried to make the branches disappear into the sky, make it more atmospheric. This is when David Bowie passed, January 10th, 2016, the man who fell to earth, to remember David Bowie. On this page, I collaged, this was a napkin from a restaurant on the background, and on top, acrylic pomegranates. Practice making a sign over here. Kind of like that page. Some more lessons learned from a tree. When you draw a tree, you need to make the tree flare out a little at the base where it touches the ground or show some roots. You can't stick it in a hole like a fence post. So this is a fence post, how it goes into the ground, and a tree really needs to meet the ground, be connected to the earth. I found these old sketches of the calico kittens in the barn I did. Used Derwent Inktense pencils on hot press Arches paper. Playing with a dead mouse. So I wouldn't lose them, I pasted them into my book. Trying out the different colors of the Inktense pencils. More kitten play behavior here. And on the last page, I took another quote from a song. Like a small boat on the ocean, sending big waves into motion. And this I took from a photograph of my son when he was about a year old. It was very warm that day, and he was playing in a bucket of water in the backyard. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you.